Welcome to On Cooldown, the weekly WoW news show right here on Marcelian&Online. In today's episode, we will explore the big freaking buffs that ARMS got on paper, together with a lot of class changes and essences balancing. Yep, more nerfs, but even more buffs. Blizzard is handing out you surveys for the upcoming level Squish. Got any yet? Season 2 is ending soon, and we might have Vulpeera as an allied race. Hello you wonderful people, I am Flame. Yes, not actually Marcelian, and today I will bring you the news together with another friend of mine who is also not Marcelian. That I am not Flame. First item on the menu. Class changes, essence changes, and by changes I mean a few nerfs but mostly buffs, and some of them are looking pretty sweet. Let's start with the ARMS Warrior since he is the poster boy for big changes this week. Execute has had a buff to its attack power scaling, where before it got 87% of attack power and damage, now that's up to 92.2%. The basic damage boost of Deep Wounds has been upped from 80% to 90%, and Mortal Strike scales with 126% of your attack power up from 119%. Slam has also been buffed to get a 63.6% attack power damage up from the previous 60%. Lastly, Rend, the talent, has had its baseline strength buffed from 25% attack power to 26.5%, and the Dots buffed to 92.8% of attack power, up from 87.6%. On their own, these buffs are small, but put together it brings the overall DPS of ARMS up by around 5% at over 410 eye level, especially if you play the Rend talent. Of course, this needs further testing with the new raid gear, Essences, since the buffs will be more impactful the higher your eye level is. Vengeance Demon Hunters are getting another buff to their Metamorphosis, which will give them 200% armor instead of the 100% on live. This buff might make Gluttony a valid choice as a talent, or it might not. Vengeance is in a poor state at the moment, to be honest, and it's kind of been an underdog since Legion, which is a bit annoying. Hopefully the multitude of changes can still happen because what we have now isn't enough to make Vengeance a competitive tank. Holy Paladins have had their Glimmer trait nerfed. We mentioned this last week, but we really didn't have the numbers then, just a blue post with a heads up. Now we actually have the number scaling, and it seems the proc nerf is a bit higher than they mentioned since the upfront proc number is smaller by 16% than on the live version. This doesn't make the trait weak, and it was already performing above the desired parameters. And I stress that the heal proc has been nerfed, not the damage one. Last few changes are PvP talent orientated. Hunters have had their explosive trap damage bumped down a bit. Brewmaster monks have had their hot tub talent mentioned. The damage is divided between enemies, and if you are playing a tank in arenas, you need to stop. For Discipline Priests, Premonition has been slightly redesigned so that the tooltip is a bit clearer. Overall, the effect is the same, you only get the damage back for each allied healed, and each allied that can be healed has to have Atonement on. AKA, if you are alone and don't have Atonement on yourself and press Premonition, nothing should happen, from the tooltip description at least. Unless I got this wrong, and if I did, I know you guys will correct me down below. Elemental Shaman Lightning Lasso has also had its damage changed, where before it took a fixed percentage of the enemy's HP, now it deals 700% spell power damage. I did say ARMS was the poster boy for the class changes this week, but that's only because Frost Decay has had a spotlight almost every week. With the 8.2 hitting live servers very soon, we probably won't see any more changes to Frost Decay, so if you missed our past episodes, I will have a quick rundown of all of them right now for you, since some actually went through a few changes on the PTR to begin with. Runic Empowerment now will have a 2% chance to proc, up from 1.5% per runic power spent. That means that by spending 200 runic power, you'll get an average of 4 runes refreshed as opposed to 3 runes. In the course of a long fight, this will matter. Frost Fever chance to generate runic power increased to 30% up from 20%, with subsequent targets suffering a diminishing returns. Breath of Sindragosa has had the most changes. It doesn't proc runic power anymore. but costs 16 runic power per second, generates 2 runes at the start and 2 runes at the end of its effect. Killing machine procs per minute have been tripled, meaning more crits which work with the next buff to Ice Cap that reduces the cooldown of Pillar of Frost by 3 seconds up from 1 second. Ice Cap is looking like the new kid on the block in 8.2 with a very strong potential of giving you close to 100% uptime on Pillar of Frost if the rotation is executed properly. And lastly, Frost Strike has had its damage increased by 15%. All of these are very significant changes that will surely see Frost Decays rise in the ranks of DPSers. Now for the essences. We actually have a guide out with the details about all of them, which you should check. I made a habit of updating the guide in the comments with all the changes made from the posting of the video. And since you are here, I know you are already subscribed to our channel. Wink wink. So make sure to click the bell thingy for notifications, so you know the next time I put out a video. But on the essences and their state, probably the most significant one is the Crucible of Flame. The first one you would get. Numbers it's dishing out have been increased by a lot, almost 3 times over, which is so far the biggest buff I have seen to any of them at any point in time. Artifice of Time speed buff was lowered very slightly. Condensed Life Force base spike damage buffed to almost double, but the damage buff you get was nerfed from 10% to 5%. Guardian of Azeroth, the major power of the essence, has been adjusted to reflect the proper damage it deals. Conflict and Strife tooltip has been updated with proper text to show you when you actually get those stacks of versatility. Essence of the Focusing Iris haste levels have been dropped down just a bit. Lifebinder's Invocation tooltip updated to correctly show the healing numbers. Whirlvein Resonance tooltip also adjusted to show you can benefit from 4 max shards. Purification protocol numbers buffed quite a bit, and Vitality Conduit numbers nerfed quite a bit. There are quite a few numbers to get into that would make this video crazy long, so I still recommend you check our Essence guide and all of this will make more sense. If you want more details, that is. On to the next piece of content, the future level Squish. We talked in earlier episodes about this topic since Ian addressed it on a few occasions. It's no surprise that 120 levels to grind to get to the current expansion and content is a bit too much. More so since those level gains feel insignificant. We barely have new talents and spells, everything is automatic and a rush to finish faster. Right now, gaining levels just doesn't matter. What matters is if you are max level or not. My personal feelings aside, the community agrees for the most part that this needs to change and Blizzard feels the same way, hence their statement of doing a massive level squish. So far what we know is that the max level will be 60 again. And again, our personal feelings aside about this particular number, the devs have been handing out surveys to people with a few basic questions to simply do a market research of the general impression on the topic. One of these questions is simply about the awareness regarding the future change. I imagine Blizzard just wants to make sure people know this is coming, potentially to get conversations going so they can collect data. The second question refers to the actual opinion about the level squish. How many people want it? How many levels should they squish? These are things most likely Blizzard is aiming to find out. And since we're on this topic, how big do you want the level squish to be? Up to 60? 80? Leave a comment down below with your opinion and let's see what the populace wants. Season 2 is ending soon. How soon? Blizzard style soon, as shown by a recent blue post that we had earlier this week. What does this mean for you, however? Well, a couple of things actually. First, everything related to Season 2, PvP titles, mounts, PvE achievements, will no longer be obtainable. More so, we know that Season 3 starts 2 weeks after the end of Season 2, meaning the new raid will also be open 2 weeks after Season 2 ends. Flying will be available as soon as the 8.2 patch is live, of course if you have the Pathfinder achievement. You can get the Part 1 now, but Part 2 is the 8.2 grind, and however long that takes you, so don't expect flying to be something you can have right away. The quest to unlock the essences will be available, with Crucible of Flame being the first one you will obtain. However, certain essences are locked behind Season 3 specific activities, meaning you won't be able to collect everything on day 1. And, in closing off, a fun piece about allied races.
No, God!
Vulpeera are speculated to be a race.
No, God, please, no! No!
And thus the ongoing campaign of WoW becoming a Pixar game continues. Well, hopefully not, because this is just a speculation, although a very thoroughly researched speculation that the community worked on. Don't get me wrong, Vulpeera are cool in Vol'dun, and their struggle to survive is very endearing for the campaign. But, I mean, come on, they're just stuffed animals. People complained bad enough when we got pandas. Now this? This is of course a personal rant, but I would be very curious to know what people actually think. Is this cool? If it is, what does the other faction get, because we cannot have faction race imbalance? Wow, this is gonna be a new thing, isn't it? If you like our news show, maybe you'll like our class guides that we have out for pretty much all the specs out. Almost. But with 8.2 coming just around the corner, we will have updates for all of them. So right now, just get started and get those last minute Season 2 achievements for PvE, raids and Mythic Plus. Shout out to our patrons for their continued love and support for what we do. And if you want to give a little bit more and become one of our patrons yourself, check the links down below. Summer is hot. Oh, god damn it, is it ever hot. So it's only fitting that you equip yourself with some cool gear from our official Teespring link. Cool. Nice joke, Dad. Motherfucker! Get your official Marcelian&Online t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, and mugs for your coffee or tea if you're zen right now. Thank you for watching the video and have an amazing weekend.